Hello, everyone. Good evening. Um, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sucharita. I am the chief mentor of Top My Test. I have previously I have worked in the Time Institute in Goa. I'm also currently an MBA from TIAS Business School. Um, Most of you have interacted with me. I have also taken quite a lot of videos, video sessions and seminars previously. So if any one of you have missed those sessions, you all can always go and find it on our Facebook page. I'll also like to tell you something about our courses. Right now we are having three courses. One is a comprehensive course for group discussion and personal interview. The course basically has about 20 recorded videos. It gives you assistance with respect to your SOP and your essays. It also gives you a lot of unlimited WhatsApp assistance regarding any queries you have for joining a B school. And not to mention, we will also be having mock interviews. So we will be giving you 3 mock interviews along with some recorded pre-mock interviews, which are solely designed to coach you for the main interviews. Then we have one more course which is for the top 10 colleges in India, specifically for catering to those colleges. And there is one more course that we have which is just a single interview session. So I won't say much about the courses at this point of time because we have all the details in our shop section of our Facebook page. So if anyone is interested to join, please go ahead and visit our course details in our shop section. And for any queries, we will be giving out our numbers. You can WhatsApp us, call us, or send us an email at itopmytest@gmail.com, and we'll cater to all your queries. Please note that these sessions that we are having, they are the free live sessions, which is publicly approachable, but we will be having a lot more videos than this, recorded videos than this in the comprehensive course. So if you're interested, you can please come and join our courses. I will be waiting for about 30 seconds now. Let everyone join, and then we can start. Today's topic is, as you know, it's how to answer questions like evaluating your strength and weaknesses, and how to answer these kind of questions when you're being asked in an interview. So again, I'll just wait for 30 seconds and we'll start off. Okay, so the topic that we are dealing with today is about strength and weaknesses. Now, this is a very exciting topic. One of the reason is because these questions are being asked as filler questions in your interview. Most of you must have attended Vivek's seminar last week, which was about why MBA and how to answer these questions. And he gave you a very vivid answer, very vivid description about it. Today's questions and today's topic is also very similar to that. Just one particular tip that I would want to give you is always remember that these are the kind of questions which are being asked to you in order to understand whether you have enough clarity about yourself, because it's pretty difficult for a panelist or an interviewer to judge your strengths and weaknesses within those 15 minutes or 20 minutes when you're there at the interview room. So they are more likely trying to find out what similarity or what alignment or if you have any kind of balance or relationship with the achievements that you have mentioned or the weaknesses that you have mentioned, and they try to find out that kind of alignment, and that's the reason why they ask you these strengths and weaknesses. Now Three more important insights to look at when you're going for strength and weaknesses. First, I'll be talking about strength. Now, ideally, the B schools ask you to mention three strengths or up to three strengths. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to mention all the three strengths. If you have all the three strengths, definitely go ahead and mention, but it's advisable, or it's okay if you can mention two out of three strengths. For weaknesses, it's a little different. Because usually it's not very much advisable to flaunt your weaknesses in front of an interview, because you're being you're going to an interview which is solely designed to see whether you are a strategic fit to the institute or not. So ideally, I would suggest you that even if you have three strengths, three weaknesses, and you are aware of that, just mention one out of three is more than enough. If in case you're being asked about why only one, why not the other two, then you can say that, yeah, I do have other weaknesses as well, but I am more focused. This is the weakness that I feel is currently needs a lot of improvement, and I'm more focused on this particular weakness because I would like to prioritize accordingly, and that's the reason why I'm focusing more on it. And the last part is always ensure that the number of strengths you mention are greater than the number of weaknesses. So these are the three things which are very crucial when you're going for strength and weaknesses. Now, there are some do's and don'ts also when you are mentioning your strength and weaknesses. Now, I have been mentoring and I've been coaching a lot of students. I've checked a lot of SOPs and profile sheets of a lot of students who have already joined our courses. What I've found is they are not very sure about how to go about mentioning the strength and weaknesses, because they are not aware of the do's and don'ts, which needs to be understood when you're answering this question. Now, the first do's and don'ts which I actually tell you is how to mention a strength, how to elaborate a strength. For example, a lot of you might be mentioning that I am a good team player. Now, that's, although it's a very cliched kind of a strength, but it can be mentioned if you elaborate a bit on it. For example, if you say that, okay, I'm a team player and I have represented my team has represented my college in different fests, it is fine. But sometimes people try to brag a lot about their individual achievements, although they have been associated in a team, which is definitely not advisable. For example, let's talk about Mahendra Singh Dhoni and Virat Kohli. Now, Virat Kohli is a better batsman than Mahendra Singh Dhoni. I mean, some might agree to that, some might not, but I myself feel that. However, when it comes to being a manager or being a captain, Mahendra Singh Dhoni is a much better captain than Virat Kohli is. Why? Because he knows very well how to strategically manage his team. He knows who are the team players, what are the weaknesses of the team players, what are the strength of the team players, and based on that, he allocates the responsibilities. So that is very important. If you can elaborate on that, then definitely you can mention being a team player is a good strength. Now, a lot of people mention having good communication skills is a strength. Now, communication skills is usually people do not understand what communication skills is. It's not about how well you speak in English. It definitely means how well you can structure your sentence, or how well, whether you're making any grammatical errors or not. But more importantly, it also emphasizes on certain factors of communication. The most important part is you need to be a very, very good listener. So sometimes the questions can be slightly deviated. So for example, a very cliched question is, mention a difficult situation or a challenging situation that you have faced in your life, and how would you prioritize, what were the steps you took in order to handle that challenging situation, and how did you prioritize your work? So this is a kind of a question which is slightly deviated. So you need to first listen to the question properly in order to take the input, and then answer the question in the most concise, in the most specific way. So that is what communication also means. Communication also means your body language. Now, if I am sitting like this, or if I am sitting, like I'm putting my one leg on top of the other, that's not how you can actually present yourself in an interview. You need to be very careful on how to maintain eye contact. Now, these are the kind of, we will be also having videos on that, on basic etiquettes that one should follow when someone goes for an interview. But this is also a very good part of communication. So it is very important that you understand this and then mention communication skills as a strength. I would myself advise you not to, because this is the job of the other person who is interviewing you or who is talking to you to judge. It's like an interview. The reason why students, or the reason why you guys will be joining different institutes for taking help for interviews is because you will not be able to judge yourself the best possible way as others will be able to judge you. So this is very important that you know this and you don't mention communication skills as one of your strengths. The second one, which I get a lot of answers I get, is I'm very hardworking. I mean, come on, everybody is hardworking and you are supposed to be hardworking, because otherwise, definitely, if you're not hardworking, then there's no point of you in working anywhere. Now, sometimes people will say that, you know what, I'm very hardworking. Because I feel I'm hardworking is because even though my office hours are 8 hours or 10 hours a day, I actually work for 15 to 16 hours a day, which is good, which is amazing. But it can, or the flip can be, or the viewer can actually ask you a flip question by saying, does that mean that you're also inefficient? So you need to be a little careful on this. So I would suggest you not to mention hardworking as a strength. Next is honesty. Now, of course, honesty is something which is definitely a very big strength, and not all people are honest these days. Okay. But what happens is, the college is the college wants you to be honest. That's one of the reasons. It's kind of rhetorical. They know it's kind of obvious that you should be honest. So please don't mention honesty as a strength. It is definitely a very good quality, but it is not advisable to write honesty as a strength. Last but not the least, try to avoid being too throw sassy comments during an interview. For example, the interviewer sometimes will ask you questions which might not be the right kind of questions, whose answers are pretty obvious, but they will still ask you those questions. But that doesn't mean that you will tell them, you know what, I don't think you're right, or I don't think that's a legitimate question. You should never say that. So avoid sassy comments. In other words, try to avoid, no matter how good you are, no matter how intelligent or how outspoken or how good you are, try to avoid the 7 deadly sins like lust, greed, wrath, sloth. Please avoid that when you're going for an interview. Okay, now I will come to the strengths part before I go for the weaknesses. Now, what kind of ideas can you go for when you're mentioning strength? One, I told you about the team player part. So, you know, if you're mentioning being a good team player, you know what you have to mention. Second, I would like to, a very good strength which you can mention is being extremely responsive, being extremely a good having a good you're a very convincing person. So this is a good strength. Why? Because sometimes, most of the times, you all will be you all will be in situations where you need to communicate with not only your peers or your colleagues, but also you need to communicate with your clients and get deals done. So if you are a person who is very convincing, you most likely you can get deals, or you can crack deals for your company. So that can be a very good way of presenting yourself. Then one more strength which you can write is taking risk. I'm a risk taker. Now, when you're mentioning that you're a risk taker, make sure that aligns with the rest of the answers. For example, you say that I am a risk taker. I am open to challenges in life, and uh, I don't mind taking risk. And in some other answer, for example, the answer to the question, if you're not selected for an MBA this year, what would be your course of action? So some people might write, if I'm not selected for my MBA this year, I will drop the idea of doing an MBA. I will join a company, work there, and I will gain some experience from there. And at the same time, I'll do some certification courses. So this shows that, yeah, you are a risk taker, but you are not trying to take the risk of applying one more time. So you need to make it a point that you show that, yeah, okay, I have failed one time. If in case you have failed, I have failed this time, but because I don't mind giving one more year of my life in this MBA course or in this MBA preparation, because I am completely passionate about it. And I am very much open to risk. So this is the reason why I believe that this would be a great strength for me. Some people say that, okay, you know what, I am doing an MBA because I had my own venture in the past, but it did not run properly, and I feel that doing an MBA is going to solve that, because I will learn a lot of skills, I will learn a lot of gain a lot of knowledge. See, that is perfectly fine. This is a very cliched answer that you can write in your YMBA. But then if once your venture has failed and the very next moment you have decided to just stop your venture or put an end to your venture and just go for an MBA just like that and just switch your career, then it might be a little negative on your CV that, okay, you're not the kind of a person who wants to take up risk. Because if you are having your own business, that is the most important point. I mean, you need to take risk, you should be open to challenges. So be a little careful when you answer these kind of questions. Okay, the other strength which I really like is being resourceful. Now, what does being resourceful means? It means that you have a very good way of networking with people. You can get a lot of valid, or get a lot of good material, or get some value for your company. For example, resourceful does not mean that you go to a nightclub or a pub and you chat with some of your some people who are from some other sectors. You gain some insights from them, but you don't actually use those insights in your own company or in your own life. That is not what resourceful means. Resourceful, how you can present yourself will be a good way. Like, let's say you want to start up a restaurant, and you meet this hotelier in any place, and you actually get some contacts with him, you network with him, you get some insights from him and ideas from him, which you actually use it to in your restaurant, or which you use it to build or scale your restaurant. So that is something which you can say that, okay, if I'm resourceful, why do you think, if the interviewer asks you, why do you think you're resourceful, then you can give this example or any other example which is aligned to this. The other part which I can refer to you for a good strength is I'm initiative. So sometimes people say that I take a lot of initiative and I do a lot of work, even when the other person is not expecting that from me. It's an amazing strength to say, but again, be a little careful. Don't keep on bragging about it a lot, because sometimes people might think that, okay, if you take a lot of initiative and you do everything on your own, you are more like a person who is too independent, who cannot be controlled very easily. Now, although if it's your own business, it definitely works. But if it's in a company, it's usually advisable to not brag about this a lot, because sometimes people might think that, okay, if you're not open to working in a team, or not open to listening to what others can put on the table, you are a little difficult to manage. So be a little careful. You can say this as a strength, but make sure your explanation or the example that you give is pretty relevant. Now, these are some of the strengths that you can mention. I would now come to the weaknesses part. Now, weaknesses, just remember one thing. Whenever you are mentioning your strength or weaknesses, it should again align with your achievement or failures. For example, if you say, I'm an introvert, that's my weakness. That can be a weakness, that's not a problem. But in one of your achievements, you have written that I have I have won elocution competition, or I have represented my college in any literature competition or in any kind of competitions which requires you to be to give speeches on a stage. Then you are that is not aligning. So you need to be a little careful with that. If you are saying that I'm an introvert person, usually cannot mix with other people a lot, usually has a lot of stage fright, usually their communication skills are good, but they're not they're not very open to express themselves. So be a little careful when you give the examples. So weaknesses, one thing which you should remember when you're talking about weaknesses is also that don't don't portray, understand the difference between weakness and vice. Now, vice is basically a habit. Weakness is something which is lacking in you, which you want to develop, and which can be developed if you take the right kind of measures for it. Okay, so weaknesses like, okay, I am very lazy, or I have a drinking problem, or I drink a lot, or I usually tend to get very emotional. I mean, this is something which is really not advisable, specifically if you say I'm emotional. And people try to take advantage of this, because if you're emotional, and that it also means that you cannot balance your personal and professional life properly. For example, let's say you are an extremely emotional person, and you are handling a very big project in your company, and at the same time you find that one of your very close relatives or a loved one something has met with an accident, or any kind of happening has happened with that person. So that would be a time when you will be judged, because an emotional person in that case would leave everything and go and focus completely on his personal life or her personal life. So be a little careful, because usually in the corporate life also the B schools wouldn't prefer this as an answer. So try to avoid these kind of personal habits. Similarly, for strength, also try to avoid this kind of personal habits like, I have a very good physique. I mean, I had a student who said, I'm a bodybuilder, I have an amazing physique, which is great. Being a bodybuilder is great. He is he has completely transformed himself from being a 90 kg person to a 50 to 60 kg person, and he has all those six-pack abs and everything, which is fine. But it is not that is a physical attribute, that is not a strength. But if you want to mention that, how you can structure your sentence is, I have very good willpower. Now, there are a lot of people who have mentioned this as a very difficult situation which they have encountered, or their biggest achievement. So that can definitely be listed as a strength, but list willpower as a strength, because I have enough willpower, I have enough determination. And what is the example to that is, I was a person who used to be very fat, or I was a person who used to be overweight, but because of my willpower, I went through routine training, fitness training programs, and I lost a considerable amount of weight. So you should try to balance and formulate your answers in this way. Now, again, weaknesses wise, one more thing which I would like to tell you is, when you're mentioning the weaknesses, make sure you know the difference between a weakness and a strength. Sometimes your strength can also be your weakness. For example, if you say, my strength is I'm extremely confident in what you do. Now, being confident is definitely a strength, but being overconfident is a weakness. So just try to be a little careful when you list out the strength and list out the weaknesses. Yeah. Okay. Also, sometimes people try to deliberately portray their strength as their weaknesses. For example, I am an extremely bad person. Sometimes I had a student who said, I have taken a lot of bad decisions in my life. I have been extremely arrogant, and that was a huge weakness which I had. Never state these kind of weaknesses, because being arrogant, nobody would prefer an arrogant person to be associated with them. So be a little careful. I mean, it's not a Bollywood movie. Again, you're not Shah Rukh Khan, who portrays himself to be the king and who is always the loving son, the loving boyfriend, the loving husband, whatever. And we all know how that's just a film, that's just a script. So try to be a little careful when you list out your strength and weaknesses. Try to differentiate that properly. Now, this was pretty much about how you can portray your strength, how you can portray your weaknesses. One last thing, what I would like to say is, again, when you are mentioning your strength, when you are mentioning your weakness, it should not only align with your achievements and failures, but it should also align with your YMBA answer, your answer to, if you're not selected, then what would you do? What would be your course of action? Your role model answer. So be a little careful when you answer these kind of questions. I think that would be all. Lastly, I would again like to inform you that if you want some more details, you can always send us a message and communicate with us for any help you want. We'll be more than happy to assist you. Also share this video with your friends, like this video, follow our Facebook page, and I hope that you all get a lot of motivation to write your statement of purpose, your SOP. Last but not the least, a lot of people are rushing themselves to write a SOP. Please don't do that. Take your time. This is just not a one night stand. You would need at least a week to formulate your answers properly. Also, make sure that you don't make grammatical errors in your sentences. Use proper punctuation marks. If you are not sure about how to go about with the grammar part, you can always use some software. Like, for example, Grammarly. You can always use Grammarly. That's an amazing software to detect your grammatical errors. That would be all. I wish everyone all the best. And please post your comments and we'll get back to you. We'll also give our numbers. Thank you so much, and have a nice evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.